The colony world Yama 4 hung like a dim jewel on the outer fringe of Terran space. A forgotten outpost, distant and small, its blue-green ocean streaked with rust-red continents. To most it was insignificant. To the Thalzar Armada, it was an easy target. The sky over Yama 4 was heavy with warships, sleek silver-skinned vessels that blotted out the stars. The Thalzar fleet moved with practiced precision, their collective psychic link weaving a tapestry of coordinated movement and shared confidence. They had done this before. Countless times. Frontier worlds fell like ripe fruit. Commander Vorthlak stood on the bridge of the flagship Sea Runner, his 6 eyes narrowing at the tiny pulse blips on the tactical display. They are weak. They do not fight. This is a harvest, nothing more. His voice rumbled with contempt. Around him, officers of various alien species nodded, the cruel thrill of conquest shining in their many eyes. On the surface of Yama 4, alarms screamed as orbital bombardments began. The sprawling Terran settlements, rudimentary compared to the Armada's gleaming cities, scrambled to defend themselves. Local militias fired archaic missiles and ground-to-air lasers, a futile effort against the relentless cascade of plasma strikes. Yet amid the destruction, something stirred. Deep in an underground bunker beneath the ruined capital of Vesser City, a young communications officer, Lieutenant Hana Oris, stared at her console, sweat beading on her brow. Her hands trembled as she keyed a last-ditch transmission. "This is Yama 4 Command to Terran Command. We are under attack. Enemy fleet identified as Thalzar Armada. Repeat, Thalzar Armada. Request immediate assistance. All defenses failing. Colony lost in minutes." Static answered her. The orbital defenses went dark. The last transmission blinked out. But then, flickering like a ghost, the screen caught one more message, brief and cryptic. "They're watching." Hana's breath hitched. She didn't know what it meant. No one did. The message vanished. Back on the Sea Runner, the alien fleet was jubilant. "A pathetic species," snarled General Krithvac, his claws tapping on the armrest. "Let us move on before more of their kind throw themselves at us." "Commander." Vorthlak smiled thinly. "No signs of any warship, no retaliation expected. The humans lack resolve." But deep beneath the facade of confidence, the subtle tremor of unease rippled through the fleet's psychic mesh. Sensors detected nothing unusual, yet something was off. An absence, rather than a presence. Unbeknownst to them, many light years away, Earth was watching. On the cold steel bridge of the TNS Dreadhammer, a single light glowed red, the activation beacon. The ship had been silent for decades, a ghost in the Terran Navy's arsenal. Now it hummed to life. Admiral Ria Ocampo stood tall, her dark eyes sharp as they scanned the data streaming in from the outer colonies. The reports from Yama 4 were clear, brutal, and damning. "We lost the colony," she said quietly, voice steady but cold. "But this isn't just an attack. It's a message. The Thalzar want to test us." Behind her, the tactical officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Dreadhammer wasn't just any warship. It was Earth's ultimate response, a weapon born from centuries of conflict and hardened by unyielding necessity. Ocampo tapped a command. The ship's AI, known only as Archon, replied in a calm, almost reverent voice. "Protocol Leviathan initiated. Estimated time to intercept, 72 hours. 72 hours, Ocampo repeated, her mind already racing through the battle plans. No warnings, no broadcasts. This ship goes in silent. We show them what humanity really looks like. Back in the Thalzar fleet, the celebrations dimmed as the alien commanders noticed something strange on their long-range scanners. Commander Vorthlak hissed a sensor officer. "There is an unidentified object entering this system, from outside our detection grids." The object was massive, far larger than any ship they had catalogued. It moved without comm signals or heat signatures, drifting like a shadow. "It cannot be," Vorthlak muttered, stepping forward. His many eyes fixated on the screen. The entire bridge fell silent, the psychic hum that bound them all suddenly. cracked, as if the universe itself held its breath. A single phrase echoed in the minds of the alien officers, an unspoken dread. The humans have arrived. As the Sea Runner shuddered with the distant echoes of battle, an unseen observer awaited. The first glimpse of a human warship was not greeted with alarm or fury. It was met with frozen terror. Earth's orbit was alive with the cold glow of countless satellites and the hum of sprawling space infrastructure. The United Terran Command Center sat deep within the fortified Arcadia station, a massive orbiting citadel circling the blue planet. Inside, every screen flickered with incoming data, streams of information from the farthest reaches of human space, including the terrible news from Yama 4. Admiral Rhea Ocampo stood at the center of the command room, her dark eyes fixed on the holo display before her. The map was a web of red zones, colonies lost, ships destroyed, outposts fallen silent. She felt no anger, no despair, only a cold clarity. "The Thalzar think this is a skirmish," she said quietly. "They've forgotten what humanity is capable of." A younger officer, Lieutenant Commander Ishan Malik, approached nervously. "Admiral, the Dreadhammer is still in reserve. It hasn't been active in over 40 years. Protocol Leviathan is extreme." Ocampo's lips curved into a faint, grim smile. "That's precisely why it's our best option. We've avoided war for too long. Now the galaxy learns. Humans don't wait, they respond." Deep in the shipyards of Luna Station, the TNS Dreadhammer loomed, a black monolith of metal and shadow, suspended above the dry dock like a sleeping beast. Its angular, brutalist design defied conventional aesthetics, designed purely for function and lethality. The ship's hull was coated in a matrix of adaptive nanomaterials, constantly repairing and shifting to avoid enemy sensors. The crew gathered silently as the activation command was broadcast. "We are the Leviathan, Admiral." Ocampo's voice echoed through the ship's intercom, firm and steady. "Our duty is to protect humanity. Our mission, to remind those who threaten us that we are not weak." On the bridge, the ship's AI, Archon, hummed to life. Its voice was calm, precise, a blend of cold logic and something almost human. "Leviathan. Protocol acknowledged. Weapon systems at standby. Cloaking and sensor obfuscation active. Estimated time to intercept, 72 hours. Ocampo nodded. "Good. No warnings, no chatter, just silence and resolve." Across Earth and its colonies, the news of Yama 4's fall had shattered old illusions. Generations had grown up believing humans were the underdog, brutish but resilient, but ultimately vulnerable. Now those illusions lay in ruins. The Dreadhammer was not just a warship, it was the embodiment of humanity's indomitable will. As the ship engaged its dark slipstream engines, it vanished from all known scanners. The crew felt the subtle pull of space folding around them, hurtling toward the distant frontier where the Thalzar Armada waited, oblivious. Back aboard the Sea Runner, Commander Vorthlak paced his bridge. The sight of the enormous dark vessel on their scanners had shattered the fragile calm of the fleet. "How did they hide such a behemoth?" demanded General Krithvak, his claws twitching. No comms, no heat signature, no response. Vorthlak's mandibles clicked. "We underestimated them. This is no simple warship. It is a weapon forged in silence and death." The psychic network buzzed nervously. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Prepare all fleets for immediate engagement," Vorthlak ordered. "They will not leave this system alive." As the alien fleet scrambled to form defensive formations, far below in the Dreadhammer's command center, Admiral Ocampo studied the tactical screens. "Archon, what's their status?" "Thalzar fleet is currently engaged in planetary bombardment of Yama 4 remnants. Defenses are minimal. They are vulnerable." "Good," Ocampo murmured. "We will not allow them to forget." The ship's weapon bays shifted, revealing arrays of gravitic lances, quantum disruptors, and silent kinetic rods. These were no ordinary weapons. Each was designed to dismantle enemy ships with surgical precision and ruthless efficiency. Hours passed in tense anticipation. The Dreadhammer maintained radio silence, relying on stealth and the element of surprise. The crew worked in synchronized calm, each member aware of the weight on their shoulders. Suddenly, a faint ripple appeared on the long-range sensors, and the alien strike force breaking away from the main fleet, probing for threats. Targeting systems locked, Archon intoned. Engaging. With terrifying grace, the Dreadhammer unleashed its first volley, gravitic lances cutting through the void. Like silent lightning bolts, alien interceptors exploded in slow-motion bursts of fire and metal. The bridge fell silent. The first human strike had landed. Far across the void, the alien commanders received frantic reports. The warship. It is already killing our fighters. Without breaking stealth, hissed one officer. Vorthlak's expression darkened. Then we fight or we die. But in that moment, a new fear took root. The fear that this was no ordinary battle, but the beginning of a reckoning long overdue. In the cold reaches of space, the Dreadhammer pressed forward, an awakening Leviathan, on a relentless hunt, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alien fleet's massive flagship, Sea Runner, hung like a silver dagger poised above the gas giant Tiraquan, its metallic hull reflecting the swirling storms below. Celebration filled the grand command halls. The Thalzar Empire's victory over Yama 4 was certain. The humans were weak, scattered, and divided. Nothing more than prey. General Krithvak's baritone laughter echoed across the banquet hall. They fled before our might, leaving their colonies to crumble. No coordinated defense, no counterattack. Weakness in every direction. The alien officers clinked crystalline glasses filled with luminescent beverages, reveling in their triumph. Reports came in from the front lines, colonies falling, militias collapsing, supply lines cut. The future was theirs. Commander Vorthlak observed the festivities with cold detachment. His many eyes flicked to the holo display, streams of data, indicating strange anomalies, subtle sensor glitches, intermittent interference on comm channels, unexplained spatial distortions. A whisper of doubt crept into his mind. "You are too relaxed," Vorthlak said quietly to Krithvak. "The humans do not fight like others. Their silence does not mean submission. We must remain vigilant." Krithvak snorted. "Vorthlak, you see shadows in the dark. Our psychic net confirms no warships near. We are untouchable. But there are signals." Vorthlak pressed, pointing at the display. "Unidentified pulses. Erratic and subtle. They appear only at the edge of sensor range. I fear they hide something." A young officer, a data analyst named Cattell, leaned forward. "Sir, the signals seem to come from deep within our detection blind spots. Could be new technology, or a decoy." Vorthlak's antennae twitched, or a trap. Meanwhile, far from the jubilant alien fleet, on a hidden listening post near the shattered remnants of Yama 4, a ragtag human team monitored the situation with grim determination. Sergeant Eli Vargas leaned against the worn console, eyes bloodshot from hours of scanning. "Sir, the Thalzar think this is a massacre, but they don't know what's coming." Captain Lana Mendez, grizzled and battle-hardened, nodded grimly. "They always underestimate us. That's their first and last mistake." The communications relay flickered. A message came through, fragmented, but clear. "Dreadhammer en route. Protocol Leviathan engaged. Hold fast." The words sent a chill through the small crew. The Dreadhammer was a legend, a black warship of myth and terror, said to be armed with weapons that could tear stars apart. Few had ever seen it. None had survived its wrath. Back on the Sea Runner, Commander Vorthlak paced his bridge. His mind raced through worst-case scenarios. The strange signals, the unexpected interference, the eerie silence from the humans. None fit the pattern of a beaten species. "Prepare all fleets for immediate reconnaissance sweeps," he ordered. "Deploy scout wings to monitor sensor blind spots. I want every inch of this system mapped." His officers scrambled to comply, sending waves of sleek scout ships skimming across the outer gas giant's turbulent magnetosphere. But each sweep returned empty, no sign of the elusive human warship. Yet Vorthlak's instincts gnawed at him. The humans were playing a longer game, waiting, watching. Back in the alien banquet hall, the mood shifted subtly. Reports came of small patrols disappearing without trace, minor supply convoys never reaching their destinations. Communications cut off abruptly. Lost another scouting wing near the Karis Rift, a nervous officer reported. Krithavac slammed his fist on the table. Enough of this cowardice. If the humans have a ship here, we will find it and burn it to cinders. Vorthlock held up a clawed hand, silencing the hall. Patience. They want us to rush to expose ourselves. We must not give them the advantage. Brahim, from the celebrations and planning on the bridge of the TNS Dreadhammer, Admiral Ocampo sat quietly in the dim command room, watching her crew work with near-military precision. The ship was a shadow on the edge of enemy space, waiting for the moment to strike. Archon, she said softly. Status report on Thalzar fleet. Fleet is complacent. Defenses are relaxed. Sensor networks show blind spots consistent with overconfidence, Archon replied. Probability of successful strike if timed correctly, 92%. Ocampo's eyes gleamed. Then we wait no longer. It's time to remind them why humanity survives. Suddenly, the ship's sensors picked up multiple contact blips. Small. Interceptor wings rushing toward them from the alien fleet. Incoming fighters, announced the tactical officer. Ocampo's voice hardened. Engage. The Dreadhammer's weapon bays opened with silent efficiency. Beams of gravitic energy fired with deadly precision, interceptors exploding mid-flight like bursts of light in the void. The alien pilots didn't even know what hit them. On the Sea Runner, panic erupted. Alarms blared as the scout wings were decimated before reaching firing range. Vorthlak's voice was steel. Raise shields. Deploy anti-missile arrays. Prepare for battle. But deep inside, he knew the fragile illusion of victory was cracking. The humans were no longer prey. They were predators. The void of space stretched silent and endless, pierced only by the cold glint of alien warships clustered around the gas giant Tiraquan. The Thalzar Armada, vast and confident, maintained tight formations, their sleek vessels shimmering under the planet's pale light. They had grown complacent, convinced that the humans were scattered remnants, broken, disorganized, and unable to mount any meaningful resistance. But then, something changed. The sensor officers aboard the flagship Sea Runner were the first to notice. Commander, a young technician's voice trembled. There's an object at the edge of our sensor range. It's massive, but no emissions, no heat signatures, no comm signals. It's cloaked. Commander Vorthlak's mandibles twitched as he leaned over the console, eyes narrowing on the flickering blip. The black shape was a ghost in the sensor mesh, a shadow barely there. Impossible, Vorthlak muttered. No human warship should be able to approach undetected, but the data was undeniable. Alert the fleet, he ordered. This is no reconnaissance craft. It's a capital ship, and it's here. Across the vastness of space, the warship, known as the TNS Dreadhammer, glided like a leviathan awakened from ancient slumber. Its hull was an abyss of black angular plates that absorbed and scattered light. There were no flags, no identifiers, only the cold promise of destruction. On the Dreadhammer's bridge, Admiral Rhea Ocampo stood tall, the soft glow of control panels casting sharp shadows across her determined face. Archon, she said calmly. Approach vector. Closing distance to the Thalzar fleet, stealth systems fully operational. Estimated time to engagement, 27 minutes. Ocampo nodded. No comms, no warnings. We strike swiftly and vanish. Back on the Sea Runner, the alien fleet's tension was palpable. Officers barked orders as all sensor systems strained to detect the invisible enemy. Deploy scout wings, Vorthlak commanded. Find their location. Fire everything once found. Scout fighters screamed through space, weaving between capital ships and plasma bursts. But the Dreadhammer was a phantom, slipping through sensor grids with eerie grace. Then, without warning, the silence shattered. The void around the Sea Runner erupted in a storm of violent light as the Dreadhammer unleashed its opening salvo. Gravimetric, lances cut through space like spectral lightning, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Alien fighters dissolved into fiery explosions before they could even react. The alien fleet roared with alarm. Sirens screamed. Shields flared to life. General Krithvak bellowed, "Return fire! Do not let this ghost slip away." But the Dreadhammer was not there. It vanished. Confusion rippled through the Thalzar ranks. Their target was gone before. They could lock weapons again. "Where is it?" shouted an officer, voice cracking with fear. Vorthlak's antennae twitched. "It is moving through worm space." Worm space. The tangled shortcuts through the fabric of reality. Rare, unstable, and dangerous to navigate. The Thalzar believed only a few in their ranks could master such travel. Humans mastering it was unthinkable. The Dreadhammer reappeared instantly on B, behind the alien flank. Another volley. Ordered Ocampo, voice steely. "Finish this." The Dreadhammer's weapon bays unleashed quantum disruptors, tearing through the enemy's shield grids and hulls like a scythe through grain. Ships exploded in slow, silent bursts. The fleet's formation shattered. Panic became chaos. The Sea Runners. Command deck flooded with alarms and frantic orders. "Focus fire! Target the Dreadhammer's weak points." Sensors detected no weakness. Evasive maneuvers. Spread out. Regroup at Sector Delta 7. But the Dreadhammer was everywhere, slipping through space like a nightmare made flesh. It struck and vanished, before retaliation. In the midst of chaos, Vorthlak's voice was grim. "Signal all vessels. Prepare to retreat. We cannot fight a phantom." Krithvak roared in anger. "Retreat is death." "Better death than annihilation," Vorthlak replied. As the Thalzar Armada began its desperate withdrawal, the Dreadhammer did not pursue. It hovered at the edge of the battle, silent and unreadable. Back on the Dreadhammer, Admiral Ocampo turned from the tactical displays. The message was clear. "This is not just a warship. This is a warning. We make our presence known," she said softly, "but we do not destroy. Not yet." Archon's voice was calm. "Warning registered throughout the fleet. Psychological impact. Significant." On the Sea Runner, Vorthlak stared at the dying light of his fleet. For the first time, he tasted true fear. The humans were no longer the prey. They were hunters. The retreat of the Thalzar Armada was chaotic. The Great Silver Fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now flickered with cracks of doubt and fear. Every commander aboard the flagship Sea Runner knew the truth. The humans were no longer a scattered, desperate race. They were organized, precise, and lethal in ways the galaxy had never seen. Commander Vorthlak stood silently on the bridge, staring out into the void where the retreating ships blinked like dying stars. His many eyes reflected the bleak realization: the humans had changed the game. Back aboard the TNS Dreadhammer, Admiral Rhea Ocampo reviewed the latest battle logs. The ship's AI, Archon, highlighted the enemy's weakest points and analyzed their fleet cohesion. "They underestimated us," she said softly, voice edged with steel. "They still don't know what they're facing." Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kira Ewan, approached. "Admiral, the enemy's retreat is disorganized. We have a chance to strike decisively." Ocampo shook her head. "No, not yet. This is the opening move. We need to let them rethink everything. Let fear grow in their ranks." The Dreadhammer slipped away, cloaked in the void, heading toward a hidden jump gate near Yama 4's orbit. The ship's systems hummed with anticipation. Far below, on the planet's scarred surface, survivors of the initial assault gathered in underground bunkers, listening to crackling transmissions from the Dreadhammer. "We're not alone," Captain Lana Mendez told the ragtag militia. "Help is coming, and when it arrives, the Thalzar will learn what it means to fight humans." Meanwhile, back in the alien fleet, panic brewed like a storm. General Krithvak stormed into Vorthlak's command chamber. "We must hunt this warship down. Let it show its face. We'll destroy it and end this humiliation." Vorthlak's eyes narrowed. "You would lead us into a trap," Krithvak snarled. "Better a trap than cowardice." The debate raged, but Vorthlak's caution prevailed. Instead, the fleet deployed hidden patrols, silent hunters meant to flush the Dreadhammer out of the shadows. Yet time and again, these patrols vanished without a trace. Deep in the void, the Dreadhammer's cloaking shimmered, nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Admiral Ocampo stood over a holographic map, eyes sharp and calculating. "Archon, prepare the next strike vector. I want the enemy's supply lines cut. Disrupt their reinforcements." Archon responded with quiet precision. "Targeting, supply convoys and command satellites. Probability of mission success, 97%. "Then let's remind them," Ocampo said, voice cold, "that humanity fights not just with weapons, but with shadows." At the edge of the Thalzar's supply routes, dark explosions lit the void as the Dreadhammer struck again. Silent torpedoes of neutronium collided with massive cargo ships, tearing them apart. Command satellites blinked out. The Thalzar's logistics ground to a halt. The alien commanders screamed for answers. "How can one ship dismantle our empire's backbone?" demanded Krithvak. "Because it's not just a ship," Vorthlak replied. "It is a message, a promise. The humans have awakened." On Yama 4's surface, the last resistance fighters felt the tide turn. The distant thrum of the Dreadhammer's engines was a beacon of hope. Captain Mendez gripped her rifle tightly. "Hold your ground. The Leviathan watches over us now." Back aboard the Sea Runner, the alien fleet was fractured. Morale plummeted as commanders questioned their once absolute dominion. Vorthlak's voice cut through the despair. "We face an enemy unlike any other. The humans are cunning, relentless and merciless when cornered." In the shadows of space, the Dreadhammer awaited its next move. The human warship was no longer just a ghost. It was the nightmare stalking the alien empire. The battered surface of Yama 4 was a grim mosaic of ruin. Burned-out cities, shattered outposts, and endless craters stretched across the landscape. The once thriving colony was now a ghost world, its skies darkened by drifting debris and swirling dust storms. Yet beneath the ruins, a spark of resistance burned. Captain Lana Mendez crouched behind a scorched wall, her eyes scanning the horizon. The small militia force she led was tired but resolute. They were remnants of the colony's defenders, joined by desperate civilians willing to fight for their home. "The Thalzar think this planet is dead," Lana whispered, voice low but fierce. "They don't realize the war isn't over here. Not yet." Her comm crackled and a voice came through, smooth, calm, and resolute. "This is Admiral Ocampo aboard the TNS Dreadhammer. We are arriving to assist. Hold your positions." A wave of hope rippled through the fighters. Far above, the Dreadhammer moved into orbit around Yama 4, its shadow casting a black veil over the scarred planet below. On the bridge, Admiral Ocampo's gaze was steady. "Deploy support drones and orbital artillery. We will not let the Thalzar finish this." "Understood, Admiral," Lieutenant Ewan responded. "Drones are launching." Suddenly, the void around the planet flared with activity as the Thalzar fleet regrouped, attempting to prevent human reinforcements. The Sea Runner and its escort, ships surged forward, weapons blazing, desperate to maintain their grip on the system. Back on the ground, Mendez's militia prepared for the worst. The distant rumble of bombardment shook the air as orbital weapons engaged enemy ships. "We hold until the Dreadhammer clears a path," she said, raising her rifle. Space above Yama 4 was a chaotic storm of fire and shadow. The Dreadhammers, weapons cut through enemy formations, precise and devastating. Yet the Thalzar responded with overwhelming force. Plasma bursts and missile salvos tore at the human warship's shields. On the bridge, Archon's calm voice reported, "Shields at 70%, damage to port engines detected." Ocampo clenched her jaw. "Divert power to shields and weapons, we don't falter now." In the midst of the chaos, the Dreadhammer launched elite boarding teams, hardened Marines equipped for zero-G combat. Their mission: sabotage the Sea Runner and disrupt the alien fleet from within. Commander Vorthlak watched helplessly as alarms blared aboard the flagship. "Boarders detected," his tactical officer warned. "They are attempting to breach critical systems." Vorthlak's mandibles clicked sharply. Seal the breaches. Deploy countermeasures. Do not let them gain a foothold. But the human boarding teams were relentless, fighting through corridors, in silent bursts of lethal efficiency. Below, on Yama 4's surface, the militia seized their chance. Now, Mendez shouted. Push forward. Take the Thalzar command post. The combined assault, orbital fire, ground forces, and boarding teams disrupted the enemy's command structure. As the Sea Runner's bridge filled with smoke and chaos, Vorthlak realized the tide had turned. The humans fight in shadows and storms, he muttered. They are not simply warriors. They are ghosts that haunt our dreams. Back on the Dreadhammer, Admiral Ocampo's expression was resolute. This is humanity's promise, she said softly. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We fight until the stars themselves bend to our will. Yama 4, once a lost colony, now burned with the fierce light of resistance. The shadow of the Leviathan had arrived. The battered surface of Yama 4 was a war zone ablaze with fire and fury. Crumbling structures smoked under blazing skies, the air thick with acrid dust and the sharp smell of burning metal. Below the shattered clouds, Captain Lana Mendez led her. Militia through the ruins, every step weighed down by exhaustion and determination. Keep moving, she shouted over the crackling comms, voice hard but steady. The command center is just ahead. We take it and we break their hold on this planet. Around her, ragged fighters pressed forward, hearts pounding with hope and fear. This was the moment the humans had fought for. Not just survival, but the chance to strike back and reclaim their home. Above, the war raged on in orbit. The TNS Dreadhammer bore the brunt of the Thalzar's desperate assault. Plasma bolts scorched the black hull. Engines flared from heavy damage, but the ship remained unyielding. Shields held. Diverting all remaining power to shields, Lieutenant Kira Yuen reported, her fingers flying over the tactical console. Weapons systems online and charging. Admiral Ocampo's jaw was tight. Good. Prepare for the next strike. We end this today. The Dreadhammer fired again, quantum disruptors tearing through the alien fleet's formation, shattering capital ships with ruthless precision. Back on the Sea Runner, chaos reigned. Human boarding teams wove through the corridors like shadows, disabling weapon control nodes, sabotaging engines, and planting explosives. Alien crewmen fought back with desperate ferocity, but the humans pressed their advantage relentlessly. Commander, Vorthlak's eyes flickered with disbelief and rage. They are not merely fighting. They are dismantling us from the inside. In the ground command bunker, General Krithvac stormed into Vorthlak's chamber, his mandibles trembling. With fury, we cannot lose Yama 4, he spat. If the humans take this world, the entire Empire's supply lines will collapse. We must crush them here and now. Vorthlak's many eyes locked on the general. Our fleet is shattered. Our defense is breached. We must withdraw, or face annihilation. Krithvac bellowed. Coward! We fight or die. Vorthlak's voice was cold. Sometimes survival is the path to victory. Outside the command bunker, explosions rocked the city as Mendez and her militia breached the last defensive walls. Almost there, she urged. Hold formation. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Silva, suddenly fell, clutching his chest. Blood blossomed on his uniform. Silva! Lana dropped to her knees beside him, panic flashing in her eyes. Keep going, he gasped, voice weak but resolute. This fight is bigger than me. Lana nodded grimly, swallowing the lump in her throat. We'll finish this, for you. The final push was brutal. The militia stormed the command center, fighting through waves of Thalzar troops. The battle was a furious clash of fire and steel. Inside, the human boarding teams finished their sabotage mission. Explosions ripped through the Sea Runners, core systems crippling engines and weapons alike. On the bridge, Vorthlak stared at the failing systems, his mandibles clicking in defeat. The Sea Runner was crippled. The fleet was in disarray. Prepare to initiate emergency withdrawal protocols, he ordered, but it was too late. Above, the Dreadhammer delivered a final, devastating salvo. The flagship trembled as quantum disruptors tore through its hull. Systems blinked out. The once mighty Sea Runner began to break apart, fragments scattering into the void. In the ruins below, Lana Mendez looked up as the alien ships scattered, their hold on Yama 4 broken. "We did it," she whispered, exhaustion and relief flooding through her. Back on the Dreadhammer, Admiral Ocampo allowed herself a brief moment of quiet. "This battle was only the beginning," she said, voice low but fierce. "The galaxy will know the price of underestimating humanity." The tide had turned. The humans were no longer the hunted. They were the hunters. The debris field around Yama 4 shimmered like a galaxy of fallen stars, remnants of the shattered Thalzar Armada scattered across the void. Silence hung heavy in space, a silence filled with the echoes of a devastating battle won. Aboard the TNS Dreadhammer, Admiral Ria Ocampo stood alone on the observation deck, gazing out at the ruined battlefield. Her face was illuminated by the distant glimmers of dying ships in the soft blue glow of the gas giant below. "Captain," came a voice from behind. Lieutenant Kira Ewan approached, expression grave but hopeful. "The fleet has received transmissions from several liberated colonies," she reported. "Human resistance cells are rallying. They've already begun reclaiming lost worlds." Ocampo nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. "Good. The fight is far from over. But today, we have shown the galaxy that humanity stands united." Down on Yama 4's scarred surface, Captain Lana Mendez surveyed the battered city. Fires still smoldered and the air was thick with dust and smoke, but for the first time in months, hope flickered in the eyes of survivors. Her calm crackled to life. "Captain Mendez, this is Admiral Ocampo. Welcome to the new frontier." Lana's voice was steady. "Thank you, Admiral. The people here will rebuild. We'll fight until every inch of human space is safe." Ocampo's reply was firm. "Then we march forward together. The Thalzar Empire has been dealt a blow it will. Never forget. But this is just the beginning of a greater war." Back aboard the crippled Sea Runner, Commander Vorthlak stared at the stars, his many eyes reflecting a galaxy changed forever. "We underestimated the humans," he murmured to himself. "Their will is stronger than steel. Their resolve, unbreakable." The loss was bitter, but Vorthlak knew the war was not over. The Thalzar would regroup, rebuild, and retaliate. But humanity's arrival had rewritten the rules. Across the stars, word spread quickly. The humans had returned, stronger and fiercer than ever. Their black warship, the Dreadhammer, was a symbol of resistance and relentless strength. A beacon of hope for the oppressed and a nightmare for their enemies. In the heart of human space, the United Earth Council convened. "We face a galaxy at war," the council leader declared. "But today, humanity has proven it will not be a victim. We will lead the charge to protect our future." Admiral Ocampo stood before the council, her voice resolute. "We fight not just for survival, but for freedom, our own and that of every race oppressed by tyranny. The Dreadhammer is the first step. Humanity will rise as a force for justice and peace in the galaxy." On Yama 4, as the first human flags rose over reclaimed ground, Captain Mendez stood with her militia, watching the dawn break over the horizon. New day was coming, a new era. And somewhere, in the darkness of space, the Dreadhammer prepared to move on, to seek out new threats, new battles, and to carve humanity's legend among the stars. The alien empire had learned a harsh truth. They could no longer ignore the humans, because humanity was here to stay. The end.